friends, welcome back. Today we are making Layton, released by Parfums de Marly. This fragrance was released in 2016. It was perfumed by Hamid Maradi Kashani. I've not heard of that perfumer before. And let's be honest, Layton is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. You get an apple note in it. It's very easy and musky and ambery. It's just wonderful. This, of course, is a formula I found on Reddit, online. It's been up for a while. The fact that it's been up for a while means to me that none of these formula providers have reached out claiming copyright. So, you know, I think this is a freebie. We'll call it a freebie. Let's look at the pyramid here, or the structure. Most of this is in base notes. All, 3/4 are in base notes. Now, a quarter of this is in amber-like materials. Specifically, we have a lot of Ambroxan and Norlimbanol. Norlimbanol or Karmawood. That's an aggressive molecule right there. So to have, almost 10% in Norlimbanol, that you could consider that an overdose. Plenty in Ambroxan, a little bit in Amberwood F. Then we have a fair little bit in musks. Now this is all Cashmeran and Tonalide. And then we have our quote unquote woody materials. I am guessing a lot of ISO-E Super. Yeah, a quarter of it is ISO-E Super. So like so many fragrances, this is ISO-E Super heavy. There's about 9% Hedione. Okay, so looking at the core of this, we can boil it down at least to the, how would you say this? The lake that the fish are swimming in. The fish is kind of like the character. The lake is Ambroxan, Norlimbanol, ISO-E Super, Tonalide, Cashmeran, and Hedione. Why don't we get started? Oh, okay. First, the batch that I'm making is going to be just under 9 grams. The concentrate is at a perfect 20%. Now, I don't know what Layton was released, at what concentrate Layton was released. I think it's an eau de parfum, but that could mean it's 15%. That could mean anything. So 20% for this particular formula might be a little strong. We're going to find out. That said, I'm using a few neat materials. The ISO-E Super I'm using is neat, as well as Patchouli, Ambroxan, and Norlimbanol. And then my Hedione's at 50%. Let's add in all of these neat materials, and let's start with the Ambroxan. The Ambroxan that I have is a version called, or I should say the Ambroxide that I have is called Orchinox. Freighterworks is the supplier. Freighterworks, when you're on the Freighterworks website, they're a New Zealand-based company. They have global shipping. They have great products, pretty good prices. They have great demo formulas on the website. But what they excel at, I think, is their, you could call it merchandising, their description of what it is that you're buying. The pictures that go along with the description. It makes you want to buy it. The way they describe Orchinox as this magic, incredible, super unique Ambroxan. It's Ambroxan, okay? You don't need to go out and buy anything special. Just get Ambroxan or Ambrox Super, whatever you can get. Just get Ambroxan. No need to spend extra for Orchinox. All right, that said, let's get going. Now, Orchinox is made by Maine. I don't know how you pronounce it in French. M-A-N-E is how you spell it, though. All right. My nose is becoming a bit more accustomed to Ambroxan, a bit more comfortable with Ambroxan. If you remember, for a while, I couldn't smell it because I was trying to smell it at a 10% dilution. it is very messy right here. I've got all these other materials because I'm going through batch variations of something I'm creating. So I won't show you that. Where were we? Okay. We've got our Ambroxan, which I can't smell at 10%, but I can smell at 1%. And in the last video, we made Angel's Share. And if I remember correctly, I separated out the Ambroxan addition in our scent strips to its own, its own dip, so I could smell the difference that Ambroxan made. So I'm getting a bit more comfortable with it. Okay. We've got our Ambroxan. Let me make sure it all gets in here. Okay. Great. Next up, now let's do our ISO Super. And again, as far as the concentrate is concerned, 25% of the concentrate is in ISO Super. That is not uncommon. So many fragrances are based or blended with ISO Super, massive amounts of ISO Super. It's a wonderful, soft, woody amber, dry, woody amber. It truly is an amazing molecule. Okay. Let's add our Norlimbanol. You could call this a super amber. It's ambery, but it has an aggressive woodiness to it, a dry woodiness. Ooh, it's thick. It is thick. If you use too much of this, or if you use it without appropriately blending it with other materials, it can be a bit brash. It can be a bit bro. A bit too much bro. Nothing wrong with bro. Like, bro, that smells so good. Bro, that's so cool. Norlimbanol can be a bit bruh if you don't blend it well. So, but this is Layton. They execute. Our old friend Hamid Muradi Kashani executes like a master. All right. We're going to do our Hedione next. My Hedione I use when I'm doing batches like this. My Hedione I dilute to 50%, and I do that because I pre-treat my ethanol with BHT, an antioxidant, and it just helps the Hedione last a little bit longer. I'm constantly opening this bottle. It's a rather large bottle, and it's not super cold in here. So with all the oxygen getting in and the heat, I'd like to extend the longevity of my Hedione as much as possible. Okay, so we have some of the major components. 20% is in Ambroxan and Norlimbanol. 25% is in ISO Super. Another 9% is in Hedione. So where are we at? That's 45. We're at 54% of the juice so far, of the concentrate. Let's add the next two substantial materials. That would be Cashmeran and Tonalide. But I'm going to wait on the Cashmeran. I'm going to add the Tonalide. The Cashmeran is not necessarily a base note. It doesn't last as long on a strip, and it cuts. It pops. It helps drive the fragrance into your nose. Tonalide, however, doesn't do that. You can still smell it. It's nice. It's musky. It's powdery. It's a little soapy. So let's do our Tonalide. It's a bit more subdued. This is definitely meant to be more in the background. Why am I so delicate with this? I need a full pipette. Okay, good. Tonalide. Done. Oh, I've got a little perfumer's alcohol in here. Oh, to get it down. I'm going to add the perfumer's alcohol right now. I've added some neat materials. Dipping that is not going to give us something that really dries well or projects. So let's just add our alcohol now. Done. And I'm cutting it close with this batch. It'll be 8.9 grams, and I'm doing that in a 10 milliliter bottle. The 10 milliliter bottle holds, depending on what I'm putting in here, between 9.2 and 9.5 grams of fragrance, of juice. Okay, shaky shake, because that Ambroxan, or the Organox, needs to dissolve. And that dissolved much faster than I thought it was going to. Fantastic here. Okay. Now, I'm not expecting much from the... Where's my pen? Okay. I'm not expecting much from this base. It's going to be easy. Some Ambroxan, some Hedione, some Isoe Super, very neutral, relatively neutral smells. Then the Tonalide, we'll see what the musk does to it, but I'm not expecting anything mind-blowing. All this is going to do is give us a frame of reference for how other materials affect this base. So let's start adding those materials. And let's start with the deeper, richer notes, and I'm going to combine two groups, the woods and the sweeter notes. So we can add just, sweet woods. I do include patchouli in my woody notes. I know it's got an herbal facet to it. You mix it with some vanillin, all of a sudden it gets really chocolatey. We'll put it in our woody sweets. So we're going to start with patchouli. This is from Perfumer Supply House, patchouli oil from India. It's great smelling stuff. And this is also at 100%. I don't need a full drop. Let's see. Plenty still in the pipette. Yeah, I'm going to let this sit in the bottle because all the patchouli in there is going to drip down to the edge of the pipette, and I'll probably get an extra, 0.04 grams back in the bottle. Next up, let's do our Bacdanol. A nice, very nice sandalwood note. Very nice sandalwood note. It's woody, it's sweet. It's not quite lactonic, but it does edge in that direction. That creamy sweetness. That almost milky sweetness. Okay. Thank you, Bacdanol. Next up, let's do our Cypriol. It's just a little bit of Cypriol. Now, to call this a woody note it definitely belongs in the family, but Cypriol is interesting. There's not much in here. I do get a wood-like facet to it, a wood-like note, but I also get hints of vetiver. There's like a vetiver, dry grassiness to it. And I always liken this to tea. Like there's a herbal clarity to Cypriol that I really enjoy. And Cypriol is often used in oud accords. And when you smell oud, I'm going to do a video on this, but when you smell oud, all ouds have like one of 7 or multiple of like 7 different characters. And one of those is tea. You got animal, the animalic note, you got smokiness. There's like a balsamic aspect to it. There's leatheriness, but and there's a couple more, fruitiness, for example. One of them is this tea note. And when you're making an oud accord, you can get that tea-like note using Cypriol. If any of you have a better way to describe what it is I'm trying to communicate, let me know. This is how I have it mapped in my head. So if you have a different mental mapping, let the team know. Sharing is caring. Now next up we have Guaiacwood. Guaiacwood, in a similar fashion to Cypriol, has a clarity to it. It's smoky, like burnt wood smoke, not like smoke. I should take that back. Smoke smells like different things depending on what you're burning. This is like campfire though. Little like campfire. Sometimes I wonder about the quality of my Guaiacwood. Not in that is it good or bad, but that maybe the nature is a better way of saying it. The nature of my Guaiacwood is the stuff that I have extra smoky because I've used it in formulas that I've purchased, and the formula has been solid, except that it's a bit too smoky. And the only smoky thing in there is Guaiacwood. And so I wonder, is my Guaiacwood just a little extra smoky? Does it have whatever that smokiness is? Maybe mine's got a little more. Okay. Gurjun Balsam. I might need to make a new dilution. Let's test. I need to make a new dilution. This one's bad. There's peanuts in this formula, but I got to be true to the formula, so let me make a dilution. Okay, I've got my Gurjun Balsam here. I don't have much left in this particular 4 milliliter bottle I got from Perfumer's Apprentice, so we're going to measure this first. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have about 0.5 grams of material here, which means I just need to add 4.5 grams of alcohol, of ethanol, and I'll have my 10% dilution. And then we'll be able to add our 0.02 grams to this batch of Layton, or of Layton type. Because again, we can never make the quote-unquote real juice, but we can make something like it. Come on, Gurjun Balsam. All right. Now, if you're wondering, what does a material smell like when it has gone bad? I'm not sure how to describe it. Partially because I try not to have materials that go bad, but I think you'll find that they often smell the same. If you know your material, you'll know something's up. But once you start to recognize, once you smell one that you know is off, absolutely know it, it'll be easier to tell when something else is off. Leave some methyl-ionone gamma, leave some ionone beta out in the sun, you know, for a week, a month, I don't know. Put it in the oven, open it up, see if you can get a lot of air and oxygen on it. Smell what that smells like when it goes bad, because it will go bad. And then you'll have an idea as to what things smell like when they go bad. Now, Hedione smells a little bit different when it goes bad. It does smell a little bit differently. Hedione that's gone off smells a bit like spoiled milk. That's how I would liken it, spoiled milk. All right, we're getting into our sweet notes. Our good Gurjun Balsam has been added. Next up is Coumarin. And there's a good little sweet accord in here. We've got all the heavy hitters. We've got coumarin here, which is bright, kind of a bright sweetness. Okay. We've got ethyl maltol, ethyl vanillin, and vanillin. So it's the who's who of sweets. We're just missing maltol, but I don't see maltol that often. So let's do our ethyl maltol. Okay. Happily, I am also getting more used to what maltol smells like, or ethyl maltol, I apologize. Couldn't smell it for the longest time, but I'm starting to get a feel for it. Next up, ethyl vanillin. Smooth, sweet vanilla ice cream is ethyl vanillin. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the last bit here of vanillin. Then I'm going to add the ambers and the cashmeran. I want to add that cashmeran because I believe the cashmeran is a noticeable forward part of the formula of the juice. And so I want to know what that smells like. And I want to know how the other materials that we add affect that core smell. Because the way that my mind works when I want to understand these fragrances is, if I was to get 80% of the way there, what would I need? What one or two materials, if they were missing, would really change the dynamic of the juice? I'm still learning all of that. Okay, we're going to dip. This is number 2. We're going to call this Woody Sweets. And then next up, we're going to do our Amber and Cashmeran. Woody Sweet 2. Okay. All right. Let's get her done. So let's just start with our Cashmeran. Just under 7% of the concentrate is in Cashmeran. I'll tell you what, I can already smell this coming out of that little bottle. It smells good, but whatever we got in there so far is projecting. Nothing like a little Cashmeran to help it project even more. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, next up, let's hit up these small amount of amber materials. Well, we've got Amberwood, Amberwood F, or Bois Ambrine Forte. We've got 0.32 grams in this particular batch. I'm using this at a 10% dilution. Good. Okay. Next up, Ambrin. This is from Bioland. Biolandis. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I think it's French. This is another kind of labdanum. If you don't have Ambrin, use Labdanum Absolute. There's not much of this in here, so with a little Labdanum Absolute rather than Ambrin, you're going to be fine. Okay. Yeah, it smells like just a wonderful Labdanum. A nice woody, ambery, resinous, slightly leathery Labdanum. Now, finally, we have Ambrinol. Ambrinol, from what I've read, is the animalic aspect of ambergris. It's ambery, but it's a little dirty. The animalic nature of it reminds me more of indole rather than, say, civet or muscanone. Yeah, indole to my, like a dirty indole. Great, we've got that. And then from here, I think we've just got colors. Colors. Oh, I can already smell this. Can already smell this. Yeah. All right, so what do we have there? Yeah, we had our ambers and cashmeran. This will be a good scent, or a good tester strip. Next up, let's do our floral materials. And by floral, I mean we're going to do the red florals, which is going to include the Damascone and Damascone, even though those get into the more fruity territory, but they are important in rose accords, for example. So we're going to do all of those, and then yeah, we'll go from there. So let's start with our citronellol. Where are you? There we go. Citronellol. Yep, rose. Smells like rose in a single molecule. There are other molecules that smell a lot like rose. Geranyl is one of them. Magnolin, if I remember correctly, is it Magnolin? Is actually quite rosy. You would think it would smell like magnolia. But I'll be honest, it's been a very long time since I've smelled magnolia. I take that back. I have a couple magnolias that I just put into a formula, so maybe I was lying. Next up, citronellol formate. Now there's only, boy, there's very little of this in here. And I never know if some of these materials actually belong in the formula, or if these are, say, impurities in citronellol. I don't know what impurities citronellol or geraniol might have, but maybe there's other similar molecules that are floating around, or other, what do they call them, esters, and maybe they sneak in there, and then therefore, you know, they're on the GCMS, and then people assume, oh, that must be a line item in the formula. Oh, Coranol. Okay, I've got Coranol here, but it is filled to the brim. I don't want to spill. Okay, I really like Coranol. It's floral. It's smooth and easy. It's a little reminiscent of Linalyl, but not quite as metallic, not quite as bright floral, a little more rosy floral. But Coranol, it's a wonderful material. Wonderful material. And there's just over 3% of the concentrate is in Coranol. Look how full our bottle is getting. That is pretty wild. And we still have many materials to go. To just give you an idea of the small amounts of materials that will go into a formula. And, you know, we're already 90% of the way there. Next up, Florantone T from Takasago. I have not smelled this yet. I'm gonna have to do a proper review, or you know, evaluation of Florantone, because I have not, don't know what this smells like. But I purchased this because I see it in a couple of formulas. Yeah. So Florantone popped up in this Layton formula. It also popped up as a recommended ingredient in an artificial intelligence formula that was generated. Actually, I'm going to share this formula one of these days. It's one of the few formulas I've gotten out of an AI system that I actually really like, that feels balanced. It's got good longevity. It's got good projection. It's blended well. I'm going to share that sooner or later, but Florantone is an ingredient in that formula as well. Let's keep going. Next up, Geranyl. Just a little bit of Geranyl. Barely a drop. We'll do a drop, but can't be a aggressive squeeze, lest we get more in there that we more than we want. Next up, Geranyl Acetate. I find the acetate, Geranyl Acetate, Citronellol Acetate, Nerol Acetate, the acetate versions aren't as sharp as their non-acetate versions. Good, good, that was perfect. Just a little bit. Okay. Helional. I did not get the Helional. That's okay, it's right here. The Wall of Glory has Helional, but we're going to save this. I need to recategorize. I'm going to recategorize this right now. I have this in my red floral section. I'm going to move it to my ozonic and marine section. That means I need to change the color on here because my ozonic materials have a blue cap or a blue sticker label, and then all of my red rosy materials have a red sticker label. So I'm going to need to swap that out. But let's continue. Okay. Now I'm going to add Citronalva, Citronellol nitrile. This is a little more citrusy, fresh, lemony, but I wondered if this was in here not as a part of the green mandarin, there's green mandarin in this formula, not as a citrus material per se, but a somewhat bright material to help enhance this rose accord or whatever floral accord that we're building here. I figured that was the purpose of this material. So I'm going to include it with our rosy reds. And there's not much. Not much at all. Okay, we're going to do 4 more. We're going to start with dihydroianone beta. And again, not much here. Smells a lot like ionone beta. The trouble with evaluating ionones is that you grow anosmic to them. And so you smell one, great, you know, you review, you write down, you imprint in your mind, and then you go to the smell of the other one and you can't smell it, which is really frustrating. You got to get time in between when you're smelling. Damascone. You can use Damascone total if you don't have this Damascone. This stuff is strong. It's rich, ripe, fruity. Rich, ripe, and fruity. Okay, just 2 more. Alpha, Damascone Alpha. Also fruity, but not quite as dark and rich as Damascone. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. We're going to do 1 more. Now, this is a replacement in the formula online, it calls for hexyl caproate. I don't have hexyl caproate. I have ethyl caproate. Now, it's going to smell a little bit different. Hexyl caproate is described as smelling green. Let me pull it up here. Green, herbaceous, fruity, vegetable or vegetal. Ethyl caproate is a little bit different. We are missing the herbal aspect of it. Instead, it's really just pineapple, banana, strawberry. It's a little bit different. But I wanted to replace it with something, and it's such a small amount, 0.01% of the concentrate, that I figured I'll just replace it and then I won't worry about it. We're going to substitute and then hope for the best. Okay. Then last, oh my gosh, I'm mixing and matching some of my, where my materials are located. I lied, we've got one more, and that's Verdox. Now, Verdox is important in the apple note that is in Layton. 1.25% of the concentrate is in Verdox. This also has a very long name. I'll say that name once I'm done pipetting. Verdox has a couple other names. One of them is Agrimex. One of them is green acetate. But Perfumer's Apprentice sells OTBCHA, Obdcha, orthotertiary butyl cyclohexyl acetate. Say that drunk. Say that drunk. Anyway, Verdox is very important in the apple accord that is in Layton. So if you don't have Verdox, I can't help you. Maybe don't make this formula until you get some Verdox. Now, thinking and looking ahead and thinking back to what I just did, I probably should have waited. The Verdox, I should have waited for the cis-3 hexanol, the cyclogalbanate, and the triplenol, some of the green notes, because that could be its own apple accord, maybe. I've never made an apple accord on its own, but I know you don't get all the way to apple just using Verdox. You need other stuff. So, all right, Rosy Reds, number 4. Wonderful. Next up, we are going to add the aromatic notes, and let's see how much in the green. And let's add our green notes as well. So aromatic and green. And the first one we're going to start with is one that I think I categorized. Verdox acetate. I had this in the rosy red section. But when I smell this, don't get rosy red. In fact, this is a dirty note. It's that if you smell grapefruit and there's a dirty side to grapefruit, if you were to just pull out and isolate that dirtiness, that, there is not much in here. Whew, that was close. If you were to isolate that really raunchy dirtiness of grapefruit, that's kind of what this smells like. It's got a little bit of a fruitiness on the side, a little bit of herbal aromatic nature to it, but boy, at 10%, this is dirty. That said, should probably drop it down to 1%, give it a test again, and see how we go. See what happens. Next up, menthone. It's minty, it's fresh, it's got a cooling effect in your nose, but it also has a warmth to it. Like, have you ever noticed spearmint, for example? Yes, it's fresh, it's cooling, but there's like a hardiness to it. There's a hardiness and like a warmth to it, a smoothness that's lovely. Next up, a breath of eucalyptus. This pipette looks toast, but we're going to use it. Oh, what am I doing? I don't want to put it in there. I need to put it in here first. Okay. Wonderful. Just one drop is all we needed of eucalyptus. Eucalyptus globulus. Next up, we'll have lavender. Love me some lavender. It's a lot like lavender, just maybe a bit sweeter? Question mark? How would you describe it? Okay. Next up, Linalyl Acetate. Definitely fresh, herbal, floral, metallic linalyl acetate. And sweet. It's got a sweetness to it. Okay. Linalyl acetate is, I would argue, required for a beginner's perfume organ. In that list of first 50 materials, linalyl acetate should be on that list. Let's move to our greens for a hot second. We're going to start with cyclogalbanate. Yeah, cyclogalbanate is got a galbanum note to it, but it's also very leafy. Very leafy. Cis-3-hexanol. Of course, the smell of fresh cut grass. It's interesting how many formulas I see cis-3-hexanol in trace amounts. One of these days, I will let cis-3-hexanol, at 1%, mind you, be the last thing I add to a formula. Just to see what happens, to see if I can pick it up. Rarely do you smell something and go, oh my gosh, that's so different because of this little thing that I put in there. That rarely happens. But something can smell good. And then with just a little change, something can smell great. And with another little change, it can smell life-changing. It can smell amazing. So sometimes that the marginal benefit of just adding trace amounts of something else, it can have an impact. I guess the trick is knowing what to add and what to remove and how much of it. Okay, one more material, and I'm going to caveat this. I removed from this formula on Reddit linalool, a little bit of linalyl acetate, caryophyllene, ethyl amyl ketone, camphor, terpenyl acetate, borneol, and I replaced all of that with lavender. I don't know how this is going to work, but I know all of those molecules are in lavender. If this smells bad, if I get to this Layton and this does not smell good, what I will do is I will post the original formula as I found it on Reddit. However, if this smells good, I will give you the formula with lavender rather than that slew of extra, seven materials, whatever it was. So let's add our lavender. On Givaudan's Instagram, one of their perfumers, I can't remember if it was Khalees Becker, one of their perfumers got on there and they did some posts about the difference between lavender and lavender. And she said one thing that now I can't unsmell, and that is the blue cheese note that you get in lavender. And it's funny because it's always been there all she had to do was say blue cheese, and my mind locked right into that and goes, yes, it's exactly blue cheese. Lavender does not have the blue cheese note. Let's shake. We're almost done, friends. We are almost done. Let's dip this. Let's call this green and aromatic. This is the 5th strip. Okay. Okay, let's see how much we have in. Okay, we got a fair bit of Mandarin. Let's definitely add that separate. Lilial and Floral. Let's add that as a separate group. And then let's add the Helional and Calone last. Okay, 3 more strips. First up is going to be Mandarin. Green. 3% of the concentrate. Oh, please be enough. Gotta refill this. 3% of the concentrate is in Mandarin. Whew. That's enough. I don't have to make a new dilution. Now, I'm going to have to make a new dilution. This is empty, but it was perfect. The perfect amount. So, we'll shake. We will dip. Mandarin. Did I dip? Nope. Okay. Next up, let's do our Lily of the Valley materials. We have Lilial. Lovely, lovely Lilial. And not much of it. Not much. Maybe 3 drops in here. But there is a fair bit of Floral. And Floral is similar. Yeah, it's very, very similar. It's soft, airy, it's light. It has that Lily of the Valley vibe to it. In that it's a little bit transparent. It adds transparency and lift. Helps to open up a formula, provide space in between the molecules, allowing some molecules to shine through. I remember a while ago doing a formula where we're going to experience this again, but Calone, adding Calone to the formula helped like clear out the middle, and then the bergamot just like helped to shine through. Got some scent strips that are not cutting it. Okay, we have Lily of the Valley, number 7. Running out of space here. Okay, last up, we got 2 more materials. We have our Helional and our Calone. Calone is exceptionally strong. Very, very strong. Let's do that first. There is 10 times more Helional than there is Calone in this formula, for good reason. Calone is also called watermelon ketone, and when you smell it and you think of watermelon, you understand why. It does have that watermelon-like vibe to it. It's interesting. Okay, last up, Helional. Helional is a lot like Calone, but just much more toned down. much more toned down. Okay, where are you? You might say it's a bit more floral. Lighter, less aggressive. Okay. Friends, that's it. That is it. Let's give it a shake and let's do our evaluations for these scent strips. Okay. And here I'm just going to put Helional and Cologne, number 8. All right, 8 strips to smell. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to this. Friends, I want to plug a subreddit, Perfumery Formulas. There's some great formulas on there. I know beginning perfumers are always wondering, where do I find formulas? It turns out they are everywhere. Formulas are everywhere. It might not be the formula, you know, published by Givaudan, published by Dior of like Dior Sauvage, but there are formulas everywhere. Demo formulas from Freighterworks are pretty good. There's demo accords in Perfumer's Apprentice. You can look at perfumery formulas subreddit. There's the fragrance DIY subreddit that's fantastic. Labtorium has free formulas. Wisemore Labtorium has free formulas. Patents have free formulas. It's a little more hit or miss because you're not sure what you're getting. There's Instagram channels like Fragrance Drama that has a great reputation. Perfumers submit their own accords, like professional perfumers submit great accords you can work through. Perfume Archaeology is another site. Sometimes that can be hit or miss, but when they're a hit, they're a freaking hit, okay? So there are so many resources, but a lot of these I'm getting from Perfumery Formulas subreddit. It's a great community and very generous. You know, people are just very generous with sharing what they have. So let's check it out. First, the base. The ISOE Super Hedione, we had the Ambroxan, Norlimbanol, and then Tonalide. Nothing special, but let's see. Wow, this is a fantastic, this is, okay. I was going in expecting to be unimpressed, uninspired. This is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. Oh my gosh. Oh my, I'm gonna write this down. This is an amazing base. Wow. Okay, noted. Maybe it's the Norlimbanol. I have not smelled this much Norlimbanol in a formula on a strip yet, because I mean, it might be only 10% of the concentrate, but as far as its relation to the ISOE Super and whatnot, you know, it's like 20% of all that. So, oh my gosh, this is so good. We're off to a really good start. Next up, we added the Sweet Dream Team. We had Ethyl Maltol, Ethyl Vanillin, what else did we have? Coumarin. And then we added the sweet notes, the sweet wood, the woods like Bacdanol, and then Cypriol, Guaiacwood, Gurjun Balsam, and Patchouli. And immediately I think of Coca-Cola. I don't know what it is. It's the patchouli with the coumarin. Almost gives it a fizz, like a cola-like root beer fizz on top of that wonderful base that we just started with. That's interesting. Next up, we added the remaining amber materials in the Cashmeran. Lots of Cashmeran, but we also added the Ambrine, the Ambrinol, and Amberwood F. I can't smell much of a difference, which is interesting. That Cashmeran is in there. I'm not getting much from the other amber materials. The Cashmeran's in there and it's pushing, but that chocolatey root beer that's underneath, that's what's getting pushed. It's not like I'm smelling Cashmeran. What I'm smelling is more of that chocolatey root beer. It's funny that that's what my mind thinks of, and once I anchor to it, I'm anchored. I'm not saying this smells like chocolate root beer, but to my brain, that's the association that I make with the sweet, the woods, the tonalide, the coumarin. Yeah, it's just where I go. You can smell the patchouli in this, which is very nice. Next up, we added all of those rosy floral materials, but we included some fruity notes like Damascone. We have our ionone, not much, but we did add some ionone. Let's see what we get. Very noticeable. Now these are a lot of mid notes, strong notes that cut. They've got some freshness. They've got a bright zing to them, like Citronellol, Geranyl. Those have, to my nose, zing, and they help form an edge to the fragrance and push into your nose. Now the ratio of the red florals to the rest of it is spot on. This is a beautiful blend as it is. And I know that we're headed in the Layton direction. That's, my brain is ready for that. And at this point I can smell, okay, we're getting close. We're not 80% of the way there, but we're 75% of the way there. So let's add the green and aromatic notes. And remember, this includes the lavender replacement. Those notes are forward. They're much more forward than I was expecting. It's interesting. It's also interesting how little menthone you need, or menthol you need, or mint, to actually give a cooling brightness to the fragrance. Still good. It is still good. Now we have 3 more to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this on my hand. We're going to let that sit and soak. Let's smell the addition of Mandarin. Wow. Wow. Okay. Going back to the rosy reds, I can smell, yeah, we're headed in the Layton direction. Beautiful blend. The moment we added those aromatic and green notes, I thought, this took us back to 70%. We went from 75% of the way there. Now we're back to 70, maybe even 60. I was a little like, oh boy, what's going to happen? You add some Mandarin and bam, you're back up to 80. We're at 80%. That's very interesting. That just Mandarin. That's all it took. Mandarin. Oh, it smells beautiful. Smells beautiful. A little bit of Lilial, a little bit more of Floral. This is what we added here. I can smell what it's doing. It's opening up, providing some light to come through. Just opens up the windows on the fragrance. It also, if you're familiar with Lily of the Valley, with that smell, you have a subtle, bright, clear Lily of the Valley edge right on top that sits on top of the fragrance. Again, pretty close to Layton, but we've got one more strip. This has Calone and Helional, 2 heavy-hitting materials. Let's see what happens. Nice. Very, very well done. It just provides a little extra tone, clear tone at the top. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. Let me smell on the skin. Okay. I can tell this needs, first it needs time to blend. I'm still getting the Calone right on top. The menthone's a bit strong. Other than that, this is fantastic. I'm very familiar with Layton. This is Layton type. As it sits right now, 5 minutes fresh being made. Layton type. It smells like we're 90% there. That said, when this blends and when this matures, as I know it will, that can really change the game. I can't tell you, you can go back and watch how surprised I was with just the addition of Mandarin and how that really shook, took it right back on track. So, I hope you make this. I hope you guys make this. It's great. It's a great study. And at minimum, I discovered a new 5 ingredient base. That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Whew. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you soon.